Hi, and welcome to the Wholeness Shift. My name is Veronica, and if this is your first time here, welcome. I teach people about easy, practical spirituality and intentional living. We talk about all the things. So if that interests you, hit the subscribe button below. Today, we are talking about dragons. Finally, today is the day. And I am here with Carolyn Mitchell, and she is going to talk to us about dragons. And I know you guys are all very excited. I've gotten a lot of messages, a lot of questions. So, first, I'm going to have Carolyn introduce yourself, please, and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into dragons, and where people can find you.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.
So, welcome to this is called Dragon HQ.
I love
So,
it.
welcome to Dragon HQ and Dragon Studio, where most of my dragon work now takes place. Where did it start? Dragon started really for me back in the early 2000s, so about 2003-ish. I was heading up a Mind Body Spirit magazine at the time, and I've been to a Mind Body Spirit fair, and I discovered these amazing coloured bottles. And I sent one of the girls that I was working with to go and interview the lady. Who had these beautiful coloured bottles.
Yeah.
And they're called the system is called Colour Mirrors. Anyway, so Karani went off, interviewed Moira, and came back absolutely raving about the system, to the point that she went off to do the training in it. And she's now actually one of the leading trainers in the world, actually, in Colour Mirrors. Anyway, when she did what was then her level 1, she came back to the office and said, Caroline, dragons, they've got dragons. My God, dragons are so you've got to do the system. They're amazing. They're this. There's like dragons. Seriously,
That's how I always was too. I had zero interest. They weren't even on my radar.
no, loco, completely loco. And she kept on and on and on about these dragons. And to me, it's like dragons were like unicorns. I'm really sorry, but that's just a step too far. Power animals, guides, all that kind of thing. Absolutely get it. Dragons.
Isn't it funny the
No.
things that we can get used to and say is normal, and then like something is just one step too far? It's funny to me. I'm the same way.
Totally. Absolutely. Anyway, the long and short of all that was, actually, I'll go and get it. I'll show you what
Okay.
happens. Bear with me just a second. See, completely organized here. Oh, there he is. So, this was my introduction to dragons, and this is Black Dragon.
Oh, okay.
And so on this 2-day course, we had to go and choose. There are a variety of bottles, all different colors.
Mm-hmm.
They're beautiful. The smell of the energy is out of this world. Anyway, I had to go and choose a bottle. No labels, no names, as you can see. They're completely nothing on them.
Uh-huh.
Intuition, go and choose a bottle. So I came out of the room next door carrying this. At which point Moira just rolled over laughing. She said, "Oh, Caroline, that's Black Dragon."
What does that mean?
And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, no, I don't. We're not doing dragon, Moira. I'm not
Oh, I
accepting
see.
dragon in any way. So
Yeah.
there's a whole series of dragons. So Melissa, who started Colour Mirrors, had channeled a whole series of dragons. So she had red dragon, black dragon, all different dragons.
Yeah.
So that was my very first introduction. Dragged into it, kicking and screaming with huge resistance.
Yeah.
And then about a year or two later, I was still didn't have dragons on the radar. I was still going, no, not happening. I then did my Reiki 1. I've been talking to people about dragons, and I was getting the odd raised eyebrow, and people going, "Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more." I was going, "No, not doing dragons." Did my Reiki 1. And in the corner of the room was this large red dragon. Now, I'm not particularly clairvoyant, but I knew this red dragon was there.
Yeah.
And the girl I was doing my Reiki 1 with is very clairvoyant. And she said to me, "Can you see that red dragon in the corner?" I went, I know he's there, and I'm just pretending he's not. And he just sat there all day, didn't interact, didn't involve in any
Yeah.
way,
Just
just sat
observing.
there.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we've gone out to a little wood, and it's called 100 Acre Wood. And I think it's where the story of A.A. Milne and Winnie the Pooh came from.
I was thinking that. Yeah.
Anyway, there's these two tiny streams. They're about this wide, but they crossed each other like this. So they made like of the four quarters.
Mm-hmm.
So like the four directions of north, south, east, and west. So we were sat in one of these directions, and in a little clearing, surrounded by really old trees. There's a clearing, little clearing. And my rescue officer was doing the last bit, and I thought, what on earth is that noise I can hear above me? So I looked up clairvoyantly. My God, they're big birds. That's a lot of birds. And they were flying circularly above me, nose to tail. There was a lot of them. I thought, that's dragons. And at that point, they gave me my life's work.
Yeah.
I had the biggest download I've ever had. They gave me, I was to start teaching the world about dragons. I thought, okay, I can do that. Just tell me what you want me to say. I'm going to do that. That's easy. I was already teaching. Oh, then you're to create a set of cards, oracle cards. I went, right, okay. And you'll try a book about us. And you're to do, and there are 2 or 3 other things as well they wanted me to do.
Uh-huh.
Well, the cards took probably about 13, 14, 15 years, because I didn't know how to create a set of cards.
Right.
I'm not technical. I can't draw for toffee. And eventually the dragons brought me and my artist together, and that is the cards. I initially self-published. And I always knew that, even from when the day they told me that I would create this set of cards, I always knew I'd get a publishing deal that I didn't have to go looking for. They'd said to me, you will go global with this, but it will come to you. You won't go looking for it. And same with the book, which is exactly what happened. About 15 years later. It took that long to bring the whole lot together.
Isn't it funny how, like, they already have it all planned out? It is already synchronized, and we stress so much about, what should I do? What should I do? Like, you just need to flow. You just need to release expectations and just worry about the next right thing. And sometimes that next right thing is just drinking a glass of water. Like, you don't have to stress about the big picture. Like, it's already done.
It is done. And what I say when I'm teaching about the dragons, when they want you to do a particular task, it's like following a trail of breadcrumbs.
Yeah, just one bite after another.
It is.
It's how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
And it's slow. They get so frustrated. They got so frustrated with me.
Yeah.
About this. But what was really, really funny, because I initially indie published, I didn't know anything about publishing or what, and it's quite a rigmarole.
You figured it out.
Yeah. To get published traditionally is a right old rigmarole.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where I was going. So I literally just followed the steps. And of course, dragons intervened. They brought me the perfect person that would guide me to find an artist and all that kind of thing. And what happened, I'd found an amazing artist in Serbia, I think it was. And I got to Friday after, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to sign the contract. I'll send them on Monday morning. I'm just done. It's the end of the week. I'm finished. And the dragons went, we're not working with him. I went, you bloody well are. No, we're not working with him. Wrong artist for us. I said, hang on, this has taken me years.
Right.
This is non-negotiable now, because people say, oh, you can't argue the spirit, you've got to be all this soul. No, ain't happening. We are signing, we are going with this artist. They stamped their feet harder, and we're not working with him. I said, well, and go away. I'm not speaking to you. I'm not interested. Go away.
Uh-huh.
Monday morning, I opened my emails to send the contract. The guy from Serbia emailed, I'm really sorry, Caroline. I can't fulfill our contract. I won't be going forward with the contract.
Mm.
The Dragons came in laughing, told you so,
Ah.
not the right artist for us. At which point I absolutely threw my toys out and said, then you better find an artist
Yeah.
and you better find one quickly because
Mhm.
otherwise I'm not doing this. And about 24, 48 hours later, Tyrus rocks up in my inbox.
That's great.
And I'd already seen his work, but I dismissed it. Anyway, he sent me his portfolio. And I said to my husband, what do you think? He went, yeah, he's all right. I went, yeah, he's all right. But he's not what I'm looking for. He's not that fantasy artist. He's a good artist.
Yeah.
He's not that
But it was
fantasy.
what they were looking for.
They
They knew
knew,
the potential.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they came and went, that's who you're working with. That's who will create us.
That's great.
At that point, I just knew I'd lost it, and I just go with it.
You
You
just
just
kind of
there comes a point
surrendered,
you don't argue.
which is also what they always look for too, is when you finally just surrender.
Yeah,
Stop being in resistance and just surrender.
exactly. There's
Yeah.
just no point arguing with dragons at certain
So
points. Anyway, so I said, on your head
now,
be it.
oh, go ahead.
You know, if on your head be it, if this is a complete and utter failure, that's down to you guys because I'm now stepping out of it.
Yeah.
Oh my word, the artwork, if you haven't
It's
seen it,
beautiful.
is
It is
stunning.
absolutely stunning. I think you had suggested earlier we each draw a card. So why
Yeah,
don't we
shall
do
we?
that? You want to do that?
Go
Now,
on, I think we should.
how do you draw a card? Do you shuffle first and then pick the top one? Do you pick one out of the middle? What do you do?
Normally, if I tell them what I'm doing, they'll normally fly out.
Okay.
So we'll see. There we are. There's one. Oh,
Oh,
we've got
I
two.
got
They're being
two.
greedy.
I got two. Hang on, they flew on the floor.
Oh yeah, on the floor quite often.
I got these two.
And I've got courage and the healer.
Nice. So, if you guys don't know, these are her cards, and I got mine on Amazon, and this is her book. And you have a website too? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you can find me at I think it's Caroline Dragon Lady. I think I am.
I'll link it all below. I'll link all the products. I'll link her website below. And, I'm surprised right now that there is not more dragon energy on me and all around me because, especially for the last several weeks, like it's almost been incapacitating. It's been overwhelming the amount of the energy. At times I'd have to be like, I need you guys to step back. Like you're making me sick. Some of them are lighter, brighter, loving, airier, and some of them are just, it's not a negative heavy, it's just heavy, deep energy. And it's a lot.
It's overpowering. And when I first started channeling the dragons for the cards,
Yeah.
I really, and I wrote about this in the book. It's like, what am I doing? Because I literally felt nauseous so
Yeah.
much of the time.
I had a headache and
Yeah.
nausea, and it's only with that one though. And I tell you what, today it feels like nothing. Like I'm like, well, where'd y'all go now? Where are you now?
But they do this, and what's really interesting, I've had a couple of people, sort of friends of mine, have phoned me and gone, Caroline is like, oh my God, why did you just? I feel like really sick.
Yeah.
And there's two things that happen. One is there's this need to ground with
Yeah,
dragons very, very deeply
for sure. Absolutely.
because the energy can be so powerful they come in with.
Yes.
And the other thing is because they can come in with a bit of a whoosh sometimes we don't expect. What I've discovered is, and I don't know how this happens, must be an explanation somewhere, but it's almost like it knocks our aura out of our
Yeah, like
body,
it knocks you off
center.
kilter. Like they kind of bump into you energetically,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did this happen on a workshop with an old friend of mine, and like she's pretty experienced, and she spent a chunk of the day feeling sick. So we got us lunchtime, and so let's check in with your energy, see where you're at. And that's when I discovered her aura had actually gone sideways.
Isn't that
I had
funny?
to bring her back in. I mean, when her aura was back where it should be, she was level. She went, oh, that feels better.
Right. Right. You know, I would say that that heavier dragon is who, for a couple of years now, since I discovered these, has worked with me the most. And I'm not sure who it is, but I'm very familiar with the feel of the energy. But just in the last few weeks, I know a few weeks ago, I was sitting there and I had decided to read your book a second time before this interview so that it was fresher. And when you were talking about how, like, if you're not serious about the work, like, they'll go.
Yeah,
They're not
yeah.
going to hang around. And so I had a conversation with them and I apologized to, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I feel almost like a failure. Like, I've just not been doing it. I know that's tough, right? We're our own worst critics. But I was just being honest. I'm like, I feel like I procrastinate on things I'm unsure about. And I feel like I haven't done enough and I'm not doing enough. And I want to help the world heal and to awaken. And I want to be a force for good in this world. And I'm sorry if I've not been used effectively enough yet, but I want to. I want to leave a legacy that helps people for years. And in that moment, the heavy energy went away, and I felt a lighter, brighter one come, and just like this blanket of love and compassion. They stepped out of like, get to work, into like, they knew I needed some love and compassion. And I felt just this blanket fall over me. And the most interesting thing happened. I was shown, and it's almost like for a moment I energetically became these people. Like, first I was shown a vision of Anne Boleyn, and just that fast I sat up straighter and I was very regal and I felt this strong power and I became Elizabeth first, her daughter. And um, I had a knowing of what they were talking about. And I said, are you saying that my strongest legacy is going to come through my lineage? And they said, yes, this is only the beginning of the work. And I was like, okay. And so that was a cool experience I just had in the last week or two with them. It was very interesting. But
It
anyways,
no, it is really interesting. And I do wonder, my sort of feeling is I'm wondering if your heavy energy, and this is my come from my own experience, whether that's like a guardian type energy.
possibly. Yeah, possibly.
Um, and I know I've been out, if I'm out at night or in the dark and I get a bit, I can be a bit of a wuss, a
Yeah.
bit spooked in the dark. And I just feel like this weight behind my back and this wings wrap around me. It's like,
I
oh,
feel him
thank
here
you.
now. He just showed up. I feel it like,
Yeah,
but
there is that. So
yeah,
it's a well,
it's
isn't there?
weight. Yeah, it's weight.
Um,
Um,
so I do wonder if that's like the guardian, your guardian. Um, what's interesting that I've also realized is the dragons have come to understand that sometimes as human doings, they call us human doings because we refer to ourselves as human beings, but
we
they actually
don't
say,
just be very often though. We're always doing.
"No, you got it. Um, that sometimes we've got to deal with this physical 3D
Yeah.
and we don't have enough capacity left because the physical is actually taking precedence. And they will step away.
Yeah,
And they do step away. They do go quiet.
they do.
And I've had them go quiet on me for months.
Yeah, exactly. For months. And sometimes, because like I was joking earlier that I have ADHD, which I do. But like, out of sight, out of mind. And if I'm not thinking of these every day, like, I forget about them sometimes for months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have left these on my work desk right by my mouse so that every morning I see them, and it triggers me to work more closely. But going back to meeting them, the only time that they've really shown themselves to me was in the beginning when I first started working, first became curious about them. And I was like, do I have any of these dragon guides? And I felt immediately yes. And like this whole swirl of energy. So I was meditating and I was like, can you show yourself to me? And I saw two dragons at that time. And I didn't see the whole dragon. It was just like they kind of floated in front of me and I saw their side. One of them was a very dark blue sapphire color, except it had a little bit of a shift of like purple, greenish, maybe like a peacock feather. And the other one was very opalescent, almost like moonstone or opal or mother of pearl, kind of.
Oh, that sounds galactic to me. So to me, that
Doesn't
sounds like you've
surprise
got
me.
one of you sounds like you've got one of the sapphire rays with you, which is a Magdalene.
No doubt. Let me tell you this story. When I first read the book, and I was kind of flipping through and I just saw the title of the chapter with the Magdalene and the Sapphire Ray dragons, it was like a lightning bolt struck me. And I was just like, and I lost my breath. And it's like, I felt like tingles and sparkles. And I was like, I just heard like a yes. And so then it took me a while to finish the book because ADHD and I have trouble finishing books. I forget about them. So anyways, I'm so grateful to myself that I finally sat down and just plowed through. And when I got to that chapter was life-changing for me because
Wow.
it confirmed so many things that I didn't even know I knew, or that it helped me remember things I didn't even know that I forgot or that I knew. And like
Yeah.
it all made sense. And
Oh,
just recently, I I've always had such a passion for women and women's issues and raising my daughters to be strong feminist women. And I think all the time, and especially recently, I've been thinking about all the women that have come before me on whose backs I stand. They didn't have the opportunity to do these things I'm doing or to own a home or to even be single, you know?
no.
And um, I talk to them all the time, like I want to make you guys proud. I want to heal things for the women who come after. And then reading everything that you said in here about Mary Magdalene and how she has the same thing to like help heal all of these women's issues and wounds,
Yeah.
and about the divine feminine and all of these. And it's like all the piece of the puzzle went, yes,
Amazing.
yeah. So,
She's very powerful to work with, Magdalene.
yeah,
And she came in with a mess because I wanted her in the deck and she refused.
right.
The book wasn't on my radar at that point. And she came to one evening one night as I was just dropping off to sleep, and I'm sure you know this really well, that if you
Yeah,
don't get up and write it down, it's
right.
gone.
Yeah,
And I knew you're in that half wake, half sleep state. I
yeah,
thought, oh no, I'll remember this in the morning. I
yeah.
still can't remember what she said.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh, and it's like, oh,
That's
Caroline, you know the
devastating.
rules.
I know, that's devastating. I want to see if there's anything else I wrote here. I was taking notes as I was reading it.
Oh,
Um,
bless you.
oh, and the fact that you were talking about Lionsgate being so closely related to that and the White Lions. And I was just like, yes. Like I talk all the time about how the eclipse seasons and Lionsgate, those are the 3 times a year that like I get whammied with this energy. And like I know everybody kind of does, but it's like I have a special relationship with Lionsgate.
I do.
And I have a couple Lyran guides. And just a few months ago, I had the most interesting, intense dream about a white lion. And I was at some kind of a wedding reception, and it was right after the ceremony, but we were modern, yet it felt very medieval at the same time. And we walked out onto this huge round circle of a courtyard. And the courtyard, this big stone, it was as big as a field, but it was like divided into sections like a pie. And in each of the sections, it had all of these I wasn't sure if it was light language, if it was like druid, if it was like they were just symbols stamped into the stone. And we were walking around it in kind of a parade fashion. We were all lined up couple by couple, and it was very formal. And I had my arm on his, and we were just kind of marching very formal. And I knew we were marching around to go over to this stone gazebo that was up some steps. And up in the gazebo sat two thrones, and where the bride and the groom were, but they were very regal, like they were the royalty or something. I couldn't see the bride, but the groom was a white lion, and he was in a tuxedo, and he was just sitting there like royalty waiting to speak to me. And I chickened out and went and go up the stairs.
Wow.
I got to the bottom, and there were like picnic tables and stuff, and everybody knew that they had to change into this like traditional garb to go up and greet the lion. And I didn't know what would happen up there, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't want to get in trouble, and I didn't want to offend them. So I'm like, I'm just going to sit here. And they're like, are
Wow.
you sure? And I'm like, mm-hmm, I'm sit this one out. And afterwards I was like, why didn't I go up there? But anyways, I am dreaming about white lions too. And so anyways, as I was reading that, and it was just like, how they work closely together and it's all related. And I'm like, yeah,
The connection with
actions.
the lions, when I met 3 white lions, and I was expecting dragons. It's in the book,
Yeah.
with the amazing Sue Colson, who runs the Cosmic Classroom out of Avebury Hen Shop. And I'd gone to one of her Lions gates, because the energy that she holds is incredible. Anyway, I was expecting dragons, and these white lions, I had 3 of them. I had one stood each side of me, like they were huge, and
Yeah.
standing up, their heads were above my hips. They were huge. And
Yeah.
one stood in front of me, and there's an artist that I know, and she actually drew them for me. As you can probably find it on my Facebook page, you go through my old events, you could probably find it. These beautiful,
Okay.
incredible white lions she drew for me, did them for me for Lionsgate, actually. But I've actually got a proper print of it, and they are just awesome.
That's
But
great.
there's a real connection between the star beings, dragons, and the white lions.
Yeah. I know that was a question somebody had, was, do they work together? And
Yeah,
yes.
the dragons work with anybody. They're not fussy.
So let's start at the beginning then, on that topic. Let's just start at the beginning. And first of all, does everybody have dragon guides, or does it only happen once you're ready and the dragons find you? How does that work?
So my understanding is that everybody on the planet has a dragon guardian,
Okay, so
whether we
a
know
guardian
about
is
it or
different
not.
than a guide. There's guardian
Yeah,
dragons, and then there are guide dragons.
yeah. So our team is made up of 4, which is our guardian, our teacher, our guide, and our healer. I mean, we all have varying, varying. Someone will have won't have a healer, but they'll have a guide. They may have a teacher, but they won't have a whatever.
Yeah.
But every single person has a guardian dragon. So it's a bit like having a guardian angel.
Yeah.
Now my understanding from the angelic realms, and if I'm wrong, please forgive me or put me right or whatever.
Mhm.
We have a guardian angel for each incarnation, is my understanding.
Okay.
Our guardian dragon is with us from our very first incarnation,
Oh.
in whatever dimension, galaxy, or universe
Oh.
that would have been in. So that our guardian dragon, apart from being the best spiritual bouncer you will ever have, they know you, your
Intimate.
karma, your strengths, your weaknesses, your soul contracts.
Yeah.
They know what you're here to do, what you're here to learn, and all that jazz.
That's great. Yeah. I know, with as far as the angels go, I think it can be different. I think after each incarnation, my understanding is that you have the option to change, or they have the option to change, whichever would suit you best. But I know
Yeah.
when I spoke to every time I talk to my guardian angel and I ask about it, he has told me that he's been with me for eons.
Yeah.
So, but I do think you're right that you have the option to renew or not type of,
Yeah.
yeah. So now, so everybody has the guardian dragon, and is it only if you're ready or reach a certain level or they think it would really benefit you that the others come and find you?
My feeling is if you've got an interest in dragons, you see,
See, because I
and
never
this,
did, like we talked about, I never
no,
did. And the thought of them, I actually kind of went,
nah. And I
yeah,
think this is where it's changed. See, now this is historically, and this is pre 5 years ago.
yeah.
Okay. Basically, dragons just rocked up. They chose you. You didn't choose dragon.
Mm,
That's just how it happened. So people
yeah,
who were spiritually aware suddenly had dragons rock up in their life.
nice.
Unbidded, unasked, uninvited.
No,
They were there.
I had never even, I mean, of course I've heard of dragons. And like I said, I was always like, um, and then all of a sudden on YouTube, my timeline was just blown up with people's videos about dragon guides. And I finally watched one like, what is this? Is that even a thing? Or is this just some new thing they came up with? Everybody's always trying to come up with something. And so I
Yes.
watched this one lady's video and she was talking. And so I just paused it and I asked my guides, and I'm like, is this a real thing? And they were like, yes. And I'm like, are you just kidding? Because they have a sense of humor. And I'm like, are you messing with me or is this a real thing? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, do I have any? And they're like, yes. And then that's when I asked to meet them and they were shown to me. And I was just like, oh my God. So then I went down a rabbit hole and that's when I found you and you had a book and your cards. I was like, take my money, give me the things. I need to learn. And
Thank
the
you.
rest is history. It just kind of all went from there. But it's like one day they were never on my radar. The next day they were all up in my business.
Yep. And it's really interesting because the very first time dragons came into our awareness was at
Yeah.
9/11. And
Yeah.
I'll talk about this in the
Right.
book. And the dragons had been bound over. They weren't allowed to be involved with humans. They could only come in if invited by another high frequency being, which in this case was the archangels. And I've
Yeah.
had this debate with many people who think I'm insane.
I don't.
But because they could only come in at a time of great
Distress or
distress.
yeah.
And I've been asked, well, why didn't they come in during the Second World War? Why didn't they come in through Hiroshima? Why didn't they come in at this point, that point, and the other point?
Yeah. We
There
weren't
is
close
something
enough
to
to
do with,
awakening yet, do you think?
I think it's to do with the vibration that we were at within the planet and the fact that actually dragons are now needed
Yeah.
more than they've been ever needed in the past.
Yeah. Especially, we have been going up in our frequency. We're heading towards, we're participating in, I mean, it's actively happening, this ascension
Yeah.
process. I
Yeah.
talk all the time about how, I mean, if you think back to the 1980s, when Shirley MacLaine was talking about aliens and reincarnation, they thought she was batshit crazy. Like they thought she was insane. Um, and like if you talked about doing yoga, they'd be like, ugh, you're so weird. You live in California, eat granola, you know.
Yeah,
And now it's just commonplace.
it is.
Commonplace. If you meditate, you do yoga, you believe in spirituality more than religion. We have steadily been going through this shift. And so it makes sense to me that that was the time that they're like, okay, now you can contact them.
So yeah, they were invited in. The archangels called them in. That's why they came in, because the archangels were so distressed.
Yeah.
The fact that we could actually be so vile to each other.
Ugh, yes.
That humanity can just inflict such horrific
Yeah,
pain.
unfortunately.
And the dragons were needed to just support not just the archangels, but humanity as a whole at this time. It's one of those I think it's because, it's one of those life-changing events that hit the entire world.
Yeah.
Yes, there've been massive things.
But not in our
Been
generations, not in our
No,
conscious memory. We had
no,
never seen anything like that.
no,
And our children still haven't. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no,
we
exactly. And we
remember it.
all remember where we were and what we were doing.
Absolutely. But my youngest daughter, even though she was one at the time, she doesn't remember.
No, of course she doesn't.
Like, that's an ancient event to her. Like, in the olden days, this happened. And
Yeah,
it is so fresh. I can tell you exactly what happened, exactly how it happened, what time, where I was.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's kind of burned into your psyche.
It is.
And so
And I'm
that,
the other side of the Atlantic, and I know
right.
exactly where I was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal.
It was a big deal. I think that's the whole point of it. It was a big deal.
You know what else I loved that you talked about in the book is how certain historical sites and special sites around the world have their own dragon that helps protect the
Yeah.
land and watch over the land. And they help keep, they work with the ley lines of the
Ah,
earth and
they work with the dragon
the
lines. This
dragon
is
lines. Okay, so it's different that you called them their song lines, I
the
think, right?
song lines. Now, this caused me a great deal of consternation for an awful lot of years
Okay.
because I live very close to the Michael Mary ley line here. And I also live very close to I think it's the Rose. I think it's called the Rose line. It's got another name as well, but I think it's the Rose line that goes from the south of England straight to the centre of the country, and that goes through Roslin Chapel, up through the stone circles, and up into, I think it finishes more or less around the Ring of Bodger in the Orkney Isles. Anyway, and I had this real problem with the ley lines because what they'd show, the drugs they'd show was the Matrix. Well, they call it the Matrix, and whenever I hear the Matrix, I always think of the film. But anyway, they showed me this matrix, which is the energy that goes around the globe, like a net
Right.
of light that goes
Right.
around the globe, but it's 3D.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, well, but it doesn't connect to the ley lines. I couldn't get my head around it.
Yeah.
So what it is that a ley line is made up of got a minimum of 5 spiritual sites that are connected.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be churches, stone circles, sacred waters, that kind of thing. That's what makes a ley line. The song lines, or the dragon song lines, actually connect through some of the ley lines and follow some of the path of the ley lines, but not completely.
Gotcha.
So they do sort of vary off, or veer off.
Yeah.
So all the song lines literally go through all the sacred sites, sacred groves that are obviously no longer used, sacred wells and waters. It can be mountains, all that type of thing. So they'll go out through the pyramids, they'll go out through Shasta, they'll go out through Mount Sinai, through Uluru, they'll go through Table Mountain, and they'll go through the whole world, around the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And where there's what I think was a hotspot or like a portal type energy, or whether you get a cross point,
Yeah.
you get you then create like a vortex or portal like energy. So think for diamonds, wherever you've got each 4 corners, there'll be a spark of light, is how they showed it to me. So it ends up being a web of light around the world.
Right.
And what happens is that where you've got the sacred sites, the energy then goes up into constellations or planets, and then also goes down into the earth to the crystal beds. So you've got this energy that's traveling around the earth at our level. It then goes from there up into the planetary solar system, back down, back into another site, and then down into the crystal beds. And that's where the song lines come in. But it's also what carries an earth level, is what carries our collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And which is what I think happened about 5-6 years ago. Suddenly there was enough people were becoming aware of dragon. It hit the collective consciousness, which is why we've now had this exponential explosion of people
Yeah, it's like it hit
finding
a critical mass. It hit a
it
tipping
is.
point. Mm-hmm.
It's become quite a critical mass point. And so the collective consciousness is carried around the world through these energy lines. So depending on what we are feeling, if you just got to take what was going on 2 years ago, that was being carried around on the collective consciousness. energy lines. There's that whole fear.
Yeah.
To point, there was very, very strong views on either side, but it was all going on. It was being carried around the collective consciousness. So people go to sacred sites, and
That fear
you see it
energy.
particularly at Avebury, and you can see, and at the Tor in Glastonbury, my two local sites that I go to. And some days you can go there and think, oh, wow, the energy feels a bit more. And what's happening? People are going, they feel amazing at these sites, and they're leaving behind their emotional baggage, completely unconsciously.
Yeah.
And the dragons are trying to clear this up, because of course that ends up in the energy of the collective consciousness song lines, and it gets carried around the globe.
That makes sense. And so those are the dragons of the land.
Yeah.
Because there's
Well, you've got
dragons.
they're more the guardian. I don't know. See, this is where it gets a bit tricky, because you've got the
So,
dragons of the land and you've got the
right.
guardians of the site.
Right.
And
There's
the
so many
guardians
different kinds. I was amazed that there are so many different kinds. I wrote some of them down. There's grand masters.
Yeah.
There's guardians. You
Yeah.
have the dragons of the land, the elemental dragons,
Yeah.
Mary Magdalene and the Sapphire Ray dragons, galactic dragons, dragons of light, the golden ray helix dragons. There's just so many. And then you have your personal like guides and teachers and healers. And like, I had no idea. Like, it's not even just a generic, like, oh, there are dragons. Like, it's a whole system, and they are so vast. And
it's huge.
yeah, I mean, to know that there is such a resource helping us and that we can tap into and draw on.
Yeah.
Life
And
changing.
what's really interesting, what's come to light in more recent years, is the dragons of light are the collective name for a whole nother clan.
Amazing.
So you've got, and this under that clan of the dragons of light, you've got the sapphire rays,
Okay.
the golden helix rays,
Right.
the diamond rays, the emerald rays, the ruby rays, and the platinum rays.
Amazing.
And each has their own part to play in our evolution, our growth, our healing messages. Each one has its own job, but as a collective, I now know that they are known as the dragons of light.
And where do the chakra dragons fall?
Oh, that blew my mind completely. So the chakra dragons, my editor said to me, do dragons connect the chakras, Carol? I went, no, I don't think so.
And did they go?
But then there was this like, I don't, and there was this, but I knew there was a niggle there that I admit I dismissed it completely.
Right.
But there was this niggle that wouldn't leave me. And I was out dog walking with a girlfriend, and there's actually a neighbour's dog had actually been really poorly in the night and had an epileptic fit, and she got out and she jumped the fence, was in the forest.
Yeah.
And there's like 6,000 acres of forest behind us.
Oh no.
And it was the hottest week we've had. It was 80, 90 degrees. There's no water out there. There's no rivers by us.
Oh
It's
man.
like, oh my God, this dog's going to die of dehydration if we don't find her. She was missing for a week. And we're all out through the forest looking for this dog at all hours of the day and night. Anyway, as while I was out with my friend and our dogs, our pack, I was talking to her about it. I said, I don't know, P. I can't work this out. I know there's something there. And as we were talking, I can remember where we were. And suddenly it all came in. And it's like, oh, I now get it. It was like a download.
Yeah.
And so we get like an energy upgrade with the chakras. And so there are the dragons that connect with the chakras are much more like the Chinese longs. So they're that serpentine or serpentine type energy, and they sort of curl up in each chakra, but they've brought in a different energy, like an upgrade, and they've got a color change as well. They've gone like looking through glass, got like a glass feel to them and energy to them, and they've sort of, particularly the lower chakras, have really brought in some real shifts of energy and about the real I amness of the chakra, of each of those chakras. And it's probably stuff that's already been written about 100 times before, but it was new to me.
Yeah, it was new to me too, and I guarantee it's new to most people out there. I think that the majority of people have never heard of that, so I think it's useful. Now, how does working with your dragons differ or benefit you differently than just working with your normal spirit guides? Or when would you call on them versus your guides type of thing?
I think for me, and this is very personal to me, because what I've discovered through the Dragon Thunder Summit, there are now amazing dragon people all across the world.
I'm
And
late to the party.
oh, so we'll go to Dragon Thunder Summit first, and I'll talk about the rest of it. So the Dragon Thunder Summit ran last year online for the first time in July, and it's run by a chap, an amazing guy called the English Mystic, and he's new to dragons, or newish to dragons, been in recent years. And he was given the task because they'd said to me, Carol, I need to organise a dragon conference. I went, how the hell do I do that? Then the pandemic hit, and that was the end of that one. And so they'd given Kev, the English Mystic, some information about a year or so later. But he's very techie, unlike me. And he went, oh, actually, I could do that online. And so he set up this whole global Dragon Thunder Summit, connected people from all over the world. And it ran for about, it's still available as to download. It ran for about 12 hours, I think. The long and short of it was there's 50 speakers from all over the world and over 1,500 attendees. And that's when I first discovered, like, oh, thank God it's not just me anymore. That's what it felt. It felt like there was,
it felt like you were carrying the soul torch.
Yeah, completely. And so it's running again in July. It's running for 24 hours. It starts in Australia. It runs for 8 hours in each continent. So it's Australia, then into the UK, then on to the States. And it's running for 20.
I've never heard of it. I'm gonna have to check it out.
So if you Google the English Mystic and Dragon Thunder Summit, you'll find it. This year it's called the Galactic Dragon Thunder Summit this year.
Okay. Even better.
So how is it different? What I've discovered is that for me, the dragons are all about our healing.
Yeah.
And it's that really deep, and I guess this is why they came to me, it's that really deep healing of the stuff we resist.
Yeah.
It's that shadow self.
Yeah.
So I don't do dragon channeling to give people their message, what their dragons want to tell them. The dragons with me say, no, you're not what your dragons want to tell you. Do the work yourself.
I was just thinking, I kept hearing it's personal. Yeah.
Very personal.
Yeah.
So, and what I've discovered with all the different people that I've worked with is that walking the dragon path, hence it's actually being called the dragon path, is actually a very solitary path.
Yeah, it is.
So to hook up through the Dragon Thunder Summit with a whole host of other dragon people is amazing. Because ultimately we walk a very a singular, almost a lonely path. Because each of our work is so unique and so different. And the task they've given me is all about the shadow work. So it's that shadow healing.
You're like, thanks, guys. Fun.
It's heavy. It's heavy going.
It is.
And they're looking at, what stops us, what blocks us. Why aren't we living our best life? Why aren't you living your best life? You want something to change the world. Well, go and change it.
I think that might be some of the reason that they found me, or that they were like, okay, it's time. We're here now. Time. You've done the work. Now we're going to sink deeper into like the work.
Yeah.
The real work, the deep work, because you got some stuff in there, girl.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've got lifetimes and generational stuff we're carrying that's no longer ours.
Yeah.
Because the way the dragons work with me is, what they said to me is the buck stops with you, Caroline.
They just brought this to my mind. I was talking to somebody about this recently, how I was watching, have you ever heard of Gaia, the network?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was watching a show on Gaia, and they were talking about cloning, how they were the science of cloning and whatnot. And they said, what we have learned, or what we are learning, is that your DNA is not simply just like a blueprint. It's more like a hard drive. It stores the memories and whatnot. And they said the two scientists that were working on this were husband and wife. Their dog died, very beloved dog. They cloned the dog. The clone knew the same tricks, had the same memories, had the same tastes. That dog died. They cloned the dog again. The third dog knew all the same tricks it had been trained to do. So it's like the things in that experience were actually stored in the DNA like it was a thumb drive that just gets plugged in. And so they think now there's more scientific proof, anyways, because we've always thought this, that those memories, traumas, etc.,
Yeah.
get passed down through the
Yeah.
generations.
Yeah.
And so it could be way back in your DNA and in your ancestral line.
Yeah.
You're still carrying that stuff
Yeah.
and you don't even know it.
Absolutely. And this is it's actually a workshop. It's actually available as a download on my website now. I used to run it as a full-day workshop, which was healing with the Avery matriarch, which is
Nice.
actually healing that ancestral past, because people
She
that are
has
ready to
such
do that
lovely
work,
energy. I
eh?
She has such lovely energy, just so
Oh, she's
kind,
beautiful.
lovely energy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's about healing that ancestral past, because because what the healing does is it doesn't just release us
Yeah.
from our ancestry that no longer serves us, that the women have gone before us and what they persevered and suffered and went through,
Yeah.
from the witch wound to everything else that took place.
Yeah.
It also clears the line for future generations.
Absolutely. It just transmutes all of that and heals
It
it.
does. So working with her is really, really powerful. So that's the work that I've been led to do the dragons with. There are people out there that do amazing, channelings and information, and will tell you about your dragons. They just stop me at every turn. It's like, no, that's not your path. You're not doing that.
Well,
Very
I wonder,
occasionally they'll give me something, but it's
I
not the norm for
wonder,
me. It's not. You want to dig deep into your pain.
I
Come
don't
and
want
see
to, but
me.
I think they want me to.
Then
Yeah.
come and see me, we'll work through it. But
Yeah.
if you want to message me your dragons, I'm not your girl.
Yeah. Yeah, my guides have been working with me for a few years now on like preparing me to start channeling. And I never, is it ever going to happen? I don't know. But I could feel that's what we're doing and that's where we're heading. And I wonder if the dragons will play any part. I just think that it's ironic now that I'm thinking about it, that like it's all kind of happening at the same time and stuff.
You may find yourself doing I was very adamant, and this is dragon for you. I even put this in the book. That's how adamant I was. Dragons don't talk. Dragons don't have a language.
No, they're a few words, let me tell you. Yeah.
If they speak, they can speak any language on the planet. But if they speak to you, if you get to hear them, they're very short, very clipped sentences. It's very like interacting with a star being.
Yeah.
What I've now discovered, they actually do have a language,
Mm,
not dissimilar to light language. And
okay.
they want me to talk it. And I'm going, no,
I love that.
not doing that. So what they do is they give me coding for people's healing. So I bring down codes for
Yeah.
people. No, it doesn't work with every client. It's not for every
When
client.
it's appropriate. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll bring down coding, and that's what they do. I can feel that shifting. I can feel that starting to shift.
I can feel it
No,
right now. Like there's
yeah,
shifting as we're
that's
talking even about it.
yeah. And normally my hands start to fizz, and that yeah, okay. Were
I
you
love
playing that game today? I have no idea. We'll see where this goes. Because I feel like give you some coding. How would you then unlock your light language?
Hey, hey, there we go. I'm here for it. While that's all brewing over there, let me hit a couple of these questions people asked. Do the dragons have any connection to dragonflies?
Do you know that's a really interesting question? Of not one I've been asked before. Oh, not in the way you're thinking.
Okay.
So from a physical, okay, well, now they're going to tell me. So what they're saying is putting you on notice that dragons want to come around you or are around you. So if you see a dragonfly or a damselfly, you're being put on notice that the dragons want to connect and work with you. So if you see dragons in the sky,
Hmm.
A lot of people see dragons in the clouds. Again, I don't believe they're all dragons. However, I do believe that dragons are
Little
coming into your
signal.
awareness and want to connect with you. So
That's
if you
so
start seeing
fascinating.
dragon, not just one, you'll need to see more than one.
I have always been so connected with dragonflies. Like they'll fly right up in front of my face. They're all over my yard. I talk about how at my grandmother's funeral, I was just distraught. She was my heart. And I was standing at her graveside in the cemetery. The priest was saying the prayers. And I had my hands crossed in front of me like this, and a dragonfly came up and just sat on my hand through the whole service. And as soon as it was done, they flew away. It was a symbol of, like, we're here with you. But like dragonflies have always been very intimate to me. Like they're everywhere. So
Mm.
interesting that you say that.
Well, that was direct from the dragons, that was.
Now, are the second part of the question is, do they have any connection to griffins?
So there you've got the wyverns, you've got the griffins, you've got the dragons, you've got a whole host of other shapes. I think they're all of the same kind of family, loosely. I've not worked with griffins, wyverns, or anything else. I only work with what you see, which is the four-legged and the big winged ones. I don't work particularly with the serpent type dragons.
Yeah,
So I guess there is a connection, but I don't work with
not
them.
directly, and yeah,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
okay. How do dragons work with other elementals such as fairies, Sasquatch, pixies, or tree nymphs?
I had this conversation with Karen Kay actually. So I think you guys must know Karen Kay, the fairy lady.
I've never heard of her. Mm-mm.
You've not heard of Karen Kay?
Oh,
Oh my goodness. So she's a Hay House author. So she has written 3 oracle decks. So she's done Fairy Oracle, the Mermaids.
I've always had
Message.
resistance to fairies. I think that's probably why, because I've heard some things like they can be tricky, be careful. And like, because I don't know enough about them, I don't feel educated on them enough to
Yeah,
feel safe. I
same.
just am always like, no.
Yeah. So I was talking to Karen about this because I've got a podcast called The Chatty Ramble, and I was talking to Karen about this. So
Mhm.
she does mermaids, she does fairies, she does those elemental type things. So I said, do you think there's a connection with fairies and dragons and the other elementals?
Yeah.
And she said, I don't see why not. I've never made that connection. And I'm sure she said, I'm sure you'd have to look up, listen, it's not out until June. But maybe have a listen to that podcast with Karen Kay.
Yeah.
Because she seems to think that I'm sure I'm right in saying, I do apologize if I'm wrong, Karen. That there would be, because dragons are seen as, although I don't see as elemental beings, they're perceived as elemental type beings. There would be that connection, like an energetic connection
Okay.
to the fairies and that kind of
I'm going to have to go
energy.
check out that podcast too, for sure.
Mm.
Now, the next question says, what is needed to see dragons? A frequency shift, for example? Do you really only see them when you're ready, or if they present themselves to you and you have to have a certain vibration or frequency? Or
See, I don't see dragons.
I only
It's
saw
so
I only saw
rare.
the 2 times they like showed me
Yeah.
in front of my face. My best friend Kathy, however, she's one that I bought the cards and the books for, and like she took off like a rocket with these dragons. Like every day, she's like, "There's 2 new ones here I've never seen before. There's like this color and a that color." And yesterday, she was driving out of town, and she said, "Something's brewing because I have way more dragons around my car than normal. Like they're guarding me harder." And then she said, a tornado had just come through here and the houses are smashed and there's a car accident. She goes, I bet they were protecting me. But like she sees that. She's like, one's purple, one's red, one's this, one's that. They're above me, they're behind me. When she's on the plane, she's like, there's one by each wing of the plane.
Yeah.
So she sees them. And I'm like, I don't. So
Mm.
I think it has to do with your gifts, how
Mhm.
clairvoyant you
I
are.
agreed. So if you're clairvoyant, oh, I'm so jealous.
Right? Me too. Until I see something scary. And then
Yes,
I'm like, I'm good.
gone.
I always say I would love to develop this clairvoyance more because I get like the visions in my mind, but not externally. I see twinkles or maybe some orbs. And I'm like, but I'd like to develop that more, but only if it stays cute and pretty. Like, I don't want to see anything scary. Keep it.
No, agreed. Agreed.
Okay, so the next question says, We already covered that one, so I'm going to skip it. What is your favorite thing that you've learned about dragons, or a favorite experience that you've personally had with your dragons?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because I find they tend to really make me work and stretch. I tell you what, my favorite one. This is my, and again, this is in the book.
Yeah.
Um, I was asked if I would take the dragons. There was a little gathering of a group of people, and it was around the autumn equinox. And a lady had messaged and said, "Would I take the dragons to her private gathering?" It was like, no, I don't think so. Not feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sort of trying to, I was making breakfast. I was trying to work out how to sort of formulate a really polite, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Literally, fire dragon flew through the window.
Whoosh.
It was a real whoosh. She nearly knocked me off my feet. I nearly dropped my toast. I'd had a very happy Molly if I dropped my toast. And it was like, you will go and do that. And we are going to do this. And she gave me an entire ceremony in milliseconds.
Just that quick. I was
If,
downloaded a whole book that quick, so I understand exactly
yeah,
what you're talking about. It
yeah,
just book, chapter, verse, times,
yeah,
setting, all
yeah.
of it.
Exactly. That's my favorite. Got to be my favorite, I think.
That's
And I've
great.
run that ceremony so many times, and I've actually put it's actually the whole ceremony, and you can do it for yourself. Is
Is
actually
it
in the
the one in
book.
the book? Yeah. Yeah, I was reading that and I'm like, that would be really good to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in that for sure. And you know what else I think is uh, seeing all the pieces of my life now making sense. Like for the last year or so, I would say I've been so drawn, like it is calling me to like the Celtic, what did you call it? The Celtic wheel, the Celtic
Oh, the
calendar.
Wheel of the Year.
Yeah, that I have been so drawn to that. And I've looked up a couple TikToks, a couple videos, and I'm just like, it's brewing, but like to hear that the dragons work really closely with that.
They do. So
I
I started walking the Wheel of the Year. The dragon's been on at me for a while to begin walking the Wheel of the Year. So I actually started doing it once. So I started one Samhain, which is the Celtic New Year, which is what you guys call Halloween. And so I actually started walking it one Samhain. So I'd been in Avebury on a workshop in the afternoon, and we finished there at 3. And Avebury's in Wiltshire, and I had to drive across three counties to get to where I needed to begin walking in the Wheel of the Year. And I was actually using a labyrinth. It says a labyrinth on top of an old Iron Age fort in Winchester. And literally I got there and walked the labyrinth and was coming down the hill just as the sun was setting. And that was incredible. That's nice. And so I marked the walking of the year with walking the labyrinth.
love that.
Mm.
Um, let's see here. Are there certain areas of life that they are especially equipped to help with? I think we've already covered that too.
Yeah,
Like,
for me particularly,
yeah, for
it's
you, it's the
healing.
shadow work and the healing, and for others, it
Just
might be
yeah, something.
basically
Yeah,
they're all encompassing though. I mean, it seems like they,
yeah.
if there's a need, they're going to help you heal. They're helping us to.
The other thing that I've noticed they come in with is like that advanced spiritual information that we need.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that they'll do is so, and it's horses for courses. There's some amazing teachers out there doing some, especially in the States. You've got some incredible teachers in the States doing dragon stuff.
Fascinating.
You'll
I,
find them all on Dragon Thunder. Go and look them up because there's some
oh,
amazing people in the
I
States.
for sure will. I for sure will. And then the last question, well, actually, I have a couple more real quick. When do dragons appear physical on Earth again? I
They
don't,
never will.
yeah, I was
I
gonna
don't
say, I
think
don't
they
think,
ever will.
mm-mm.
I was talking to them about this, and they left Earth a long time ago. And
Yeah.
their nearest relatives that have been documented as living is the pterodactyls.
Mm-hmm. So
That's
wild.
what the closest we would have to dragons, really, is with pterodactyls. That was a very
Yeah.
interesting meditation when
I
they showed
think
me that.
I think that their purpose or their need is much more on an energetic and spiritual level at this time.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's see. It says, I don't know how to ask this, but are their colors significant to their jobs? Like purple is specific for X or gold is specific for X. She has met a purple, green, and a red one, but doesn't know what if they have a meaning.
So again, there's a whole chapter in the book about the dragons and colors. Because when they first came in, they came in as dual colors.
Right. I
They
was
have
going
one,
to say, you do talk about how like some of them have two colors and then some
yeah,
are just one.
yeah. Again, as we've evolved and they've sort of we've reached that critical mass stage of collective consciousness. See, the dragons change with us, so the dragons can change color. And they can also change gender, by the way. I often think of them as male or female, and then they'll come in on a different energy. It's like, well, that completely confuses me. But anyway, so they can change their energetic
You know,
profiling, if you like, to feel more masculine or more feminine. They're
my
so clever.
my main guide, Spomi, he presents to me as a male
Yeah.
energy in this lifetime. But my daughters, who have all the clairs and always have, they see him as female energy. And so every time I say he, they just kind of giggle and they're like, Mommy's not really a he. And I'm like, well, he's not really a she either. They're just presenting that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can change. Yeah.
Totally gender fluid, completely.
Mhm.
So what was the question again?
Do the colors,
Oh
does
yeah.
the color of the dragon equate to a job purpose or a specific assignment?
No, because I think this is again my thinking, feeling, opinion. Is they'll present in a way for what maybe you need. So when the dragon's colours change, it's because you've grown. So if you think purple spirituality, sovereignty, wisdom, power, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Do you need to, and depending on whether your dragon is dual coloured, if the top of their body is that colour, purple, do you need to embody more of that kind of thing? The yellow, do you need more joy, more fun, or are you naturally joyous, fun, easygoing, happy?
Could they
Is
be
someone
equated to the chakra colors?
you can do as well. You can it's there is, because the dragon energy is so new.
Yeah, we're still
There
learning.
are no rules written, to be
Yeah,
honest.
right. Right. So somebody says, where do you find them? How do you link with them? Do you literally just have to wait until they show up and go, hey, I'm here? Or is there something you can do to call on them and say, hey, I'd like to work with you if you're interested?
Ask.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Just ask.
Just ask.
Just say, hey, do I have a dragon guide? If so, will you show it to me? And if not, like, would you like to work with me?
Yeah,
Drop the
exactly.
card and like call on whoever you draw and see if they'd be willing to work with you.
And a really good way to start is actually to get the deck, is to get a copy of the deck and start and see how you resonate with the dragons, because there's obviously so many energies within. There's 33 energies within there,
I
and
get
see how you
this,
resonate.
I get this Soul Guardian one often.
Do
And
you?
I do, and I get, what is the other one? I get Merlin and
Oh, do you?
I get Platinum a lot.
Oh, he's nice.
Yeah, and there's one other one. I cannot remember. I'll find it. But what was the other question I had for her? Spomi, help me remember. There was one last question I was just gonna ask. It's gone. Oh
It'll
well,
come back.
it'll come back. But what is the one that I was working with the other day? It might be that one. Oh, Lord Cthulhu.
He's rare to come out.
I get him all the time.
Okay, so
And this one,
you'll,
Mordwin.
oh, Mordwin.
Yeah.
Well, he's a rare one to come out too.
I would say these are the ones I get the most often. Yeah. The Soul Guardian, Lord Cthulhu, Mordwin.
Wow.
I don't know what that
You'll,
means.
so you're working, so Katumi, you're working with the Galactic Council.
I've,
So you're working with galactic energy there.
I've channeled that.
So Mordrin is about actually what you're ponting about and stalling for. So you're going to actually get on and do what you came here to do. You're going to stop
And
procrastinating.
we know.
And
I
who's your
know.
other one?
Soul
Is it
Guardian.
platinum?
And
Oh,
platinum.
Guardian. Oh, Guardian's about your deep healing.
Yeah, we need that too. And then Merlin was another one.
Oh, he's the teacher of the teachers.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So, thank you, Spomi. Yes, I remember the question now. So, how often do you suggest drawing these? And the reason I ask is because, like, I used to draw one every day. And then I feel like the dragon that's working with me that day, I can still feel their energy with me days later. And so I'm like, do I still want to keep drawing these every day and like adding to the pile? And or should I wait until that energy dissipates to draw another one? What do you suggest?
You can draw a card a day and follow the message for the day and see what the message has to say for you and how that sits with you, how it resonates.
Mhm.
Is there anything more beyond, obviously, because obviously they're very short messages.
Yeah.
It's I could have gone on forever. And so can you feel into that dragon and see what other messages, is there a deeper message for you beyond what's already written in the guidebook? So you could sit with that for a day, but as we've discovered, the dragon's energy is so vast.
Yeah.
You probably need to sit with it for a week, to be honest.
That's what I think. I really think that's more appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. When you first start, you can, because when we first start working with a deck, we tend to be very surface. I'm now being told this. We tend to be very surface. So because we're unsure, we're not familiar with it, we don't dive into it.
Yeah.
So as we're getting to know the dragons and the cards, we can pull a card a day. But if you deepen that work, and as you've experienced, Veronica, it'll be too much. And so you need to work. You could work with the dragon for a 2 or 3 days, or probably for a whole week,
Yeah,
and
that
see
makes so
what
much
that
more
energy
sense.
does and how it ebbs and flows through the week with you.
Yeah, that makes so much more sense. Well, I could literally talk to you for a week. Like, I have enjoyed this so much, and I don't think I could ever run out of questions or things to talk about with you. I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk with me and
Oh,
to teach
pleasure.
us about dragons. And if there's anything I can ever do to help, I don't know how in the world I could help you, but I mean, if there's anything, I'm here and I'm willing. And I would love to keep in touch. And
Absolutely.
if anybody has any questions, put them in the comments and we will see what we can do to address them. Do you want to?
Absolutely. And do send me a raw file and I'll put it up onto my YouTube for you. I've
Absolutely.
loved talking to you. And the biggest thing the dragons ask is please just talk about them, because they gave me a job to do, which is to take dragons out into the world. And what's really interesting is the cards have absolutely flown off the shelf.
Yeah,
They've gone so well.
I love it.
But what's interesting is the book has been much slower.
Yeah, well, I think because the book takes more of an investment.
Yeah, you've got
It,
to do the
it's
work.
you have to do the work instead of just drawing a pretty card and go, oh,
Yeah,
that's cute, my
yeah,
dragon, and then you put it
yeah,
away and then you don't really do the work. The book
yeah.
requires an investment. But
It
let me tell
does.
you what, it is so worth it. And as I said earlier, it took me a couple of tries to get past the first couple chapters only because ADHD. And I struggled to get through it. I would forget about it and then I'd go, "Oh, I want to read the book." When I finished that book, it was I'm not exaggerating when I say it was life-changing for me. It was life-changing for me, especially the end with, as I talked about earlier, with the Magdalene and the Sapphire Ray dragons and so many of the other things in there. It's like this book brought me a lot of healing. It brought me a lot of insight. I think it helped activate and open some things in me. I can't overstate the value of this book. So if you are at all drawn to it, buy it and do the work. You won't regret it. It's so worth it. And I'm so grateful to you, Caroline, for doing the work yourself and bringing this to us and being willing. All my love to you. You've just been
Oh,
precious, and you are a world changer, and that's what we need
oh,
more of right
bless
now.
you. Thank you, mate. My heart goes, oh, thank you.
You're so
Thank you so much. The dragons just want their message shared. And I'm for all the different dragon people, the people that are out there working with dragons, seriously, seek them out, because we can't be all things to all people. We can't resonate with everybody on the planet, you know. So go and, if you want to work with dragons, go and find your dragon mentor, go and find your dragon teacher, whoever they are, wherever they are, and
Yes.
find the people that resonate with you, because the dragons so want to work with humanity. They're on a mission to change the world.
You know,
They
and it's
can't do it
huge,
without
and it
us.
takes every single little light worker and every single bit of energy to like
Yeah,
reach that critical mass to just
yeah,
keep pushing,
yeah,
keep pushing towards higher and higher and higher and healthier and
absolutely.
healing and love, pushing towards
It's
love.
it is. It's all in the healing, and it's all in the heart.
It is. Thank you again. And I will put all
Pleasure.
of her information in the description where you can find her, links to her products, and leave us comments, leave us questions.
Amazing. Thank you. My heart is bursting. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful
My
talking to
pleasure.
you.
My pleasure. All my love. All right, you guys, until next time.